Hi, you guys. Welcome to Audrey's reading area. Today is Educational Tuesday. Educational Tuesday. So, you know, I have another fun, exciting, and educational book that I'll be reading to you. All right. Alexa, what time is it? Alexa, what time is it?
It's 5 p.m.
Alexa, what time is Audrey's reading area?
Audrey reads in her area at 5 o'clock p.m.
All right, you guys. All right, I want to send a special shout out to my girl Karen. Karen. We haven't spoken in years, and we finally got to speak yesterday. I finally called her after years. Her birthday was yesterday. Happy birthday, Karen. Shout out to you. Love you. Mwah. All right. So, the fun and exciting book that I'll be reading to you guys today, and educational, you're going to laugh. I picked this book because the youngest marcher, I picked this book because her name is Audrey. When I saw this book, I said, I'm getting it just because her name is Audrey. Audrey. You know what I'm saying? Audrey. The Youngest Marcher. It's written by Cynthia Levinson, illustrated by Vanessa Brantley Newton. It's the story of Audrey Faye Hendricks, a young civil rights activist. Audrey Faye Hendricks. If you didn't know, now you're going to know. So let's go ahead and get into this book. Check out the back. Illustrations are beautiful in this book, by the way. It says justice for all. Segregation is sin. Freedom now. That's what this book says on the back. Take a look. Take a gander. Take a peek. The story of Audrey Faye Hendricks, a young civil rights activist. Audrey Faye Hendricks, age 9, intended to go places and do things like anybody else. So when she heard grown-ups talking about wiping out Birmingham's segregation laws, she spoke up. When she listened to the preacher's words, smooth as glass, she sat up tall. And when she heard the plan, picket those white stores, march to protest those unfair laws, fill the jails, she stepped right up and said, I'll do it. She was going to JAAIL. Audrey Faye Hendricks was confident, bold, and brave as can be. And hers is the remarkable hers is the remarkable and inspiring true story. This is a true story of one child's role in the civil rights movement. Yes, the youngest marcher. So I'm going to show you. I'm going to read at the end of this book. I'm going to read the little inserts that it has about Cynthia Levinson, the author. I'll read that at the end. So let's get right into this book. Whenever Mike flew into town, Audrey and her mama cuckooed. Barbecue ribs, stewed greens, sweet potato souffle, and Audrey's favorite, hot rolls baptized in butter. Baptized in butter. Other folks knew Mike as Martin or Dr. King. The Hendricks, the Hendrickses used his nickname. They did the same with the other ministers too, like Fred Shuttlesworth and Jim Bevel. Hmm. Let's see. After Mike blessed the feast, Mama expected Audrey to keep still during supper. She expected Audrey to keep still during supper. But when grown-ups talked about wiping out the segregation laws that kept black and white people apart in Birmingham, she just had to speak up. Audrey intended to go places and do things like anybody else. And that's what inspired me to get this book, because her name is Audrey and she's a go getter like that, and speaks volumes about me too. I want to eat my ice cream inside Newberry's. I want to sit downstairs at the Alabama. I don't want hand me down school books, but stools at the counter, plush movie theater seats, books so fresh they'd crackle when you open them. Those were for white children. Hush, hissed Mama. 9-year-old children should not speak in front of company, especially ministers like Mike, Fred, and Jim, who were bringing dreams of justice. Trying to let you see this without the reflections. It's so hard. The reflections. There you go. She got one of her eyes open. Audrey knew all about segregation. She knew to pay the driver at the front of the bus, then step off and walk around to the back door. To the back door. Drink from the fountain with the dirty bowl and warm water. Use the freight elevator at department stores downtown. Front row seats, cool water, elevators with white gloved operators. Laws said those were for white folks. Every Monday night, Audrey and her mama and daddy and her aunts and uncles and cousins joined neighbors and friends at Fred's church for worship, fellowship, and testimony. She sang and she swayed along with the movement choir, her voice spirited and spiritual. Black and white together, we shall overcome. For once, she didn't have to keep still. Then came testimonies. White store owners won't hire me. Ku Kluxers chased me. Policemen called me names. The hateful stories made Audrey squirm. She tried to tell her mama that's not right. Shh. How could Mama expect her to hush? She had to make things right, but what could she do? When Mike visited Fred's church, thousands of people crowded around to hear him preach. In a voice as taut as steel cables, as smooth as glass, he intoned, "Segregation is morally wrong and sinful." "That's true," fired up Audrey. She sat taller. We sit taller, like my namesake, Audrey. "An unjust law is no law at all," he proclaimed. Audrey had listened to Mike explain his plan at her supper table and knew what he meant. If a law is unjust, disobey it. Sit down inside Newberry's, picket those white stores, march to protest those unfair laws. Why, even marching was against the law. Wow. Then get arrested. "Fill the jails," Mike exclaimed. "Fill Birmingham's jails so full that policemen can't squeeze in one more person. Pack cells so tight that police will have to quit arresting people for demanding their rights." Audrey just knew Mike's plan would work. She twisted in her pew to see which grown-ups would walk down the aisle, volunteer for jail. But they mostly stayed put, eyes staring at their feet, hands on their knees. Feet, hands, and knees didn't move. "Fill the jails," Mike pleaded, meeting after meeting. But heads shook. All around her, Audrey heard, "No, best not break those segregation laws." Boss man will fire me. Landlord will evict me. Policeman will beat me. If nobody protested, Mike's plan would fail. Police could keep arresting anyone, anytime, for anything forever. Audrey would never be able to go places and do things like anybody else and everybody else. One night, Jim announced a new idea. If grown-ups won't do it, fill the jails with children. Fill the jails with children. Audrey leaped to her feet. I want to go to jail, she declared. Mama looked deep and saw that Audrey's eyes begged. Please, okay? Mama said. Audrey strutted down that aisle. She was going to Jail. Jail. Yes. 2 mornings later, she put on a fresh pressed pinafore and shiny Mary Janes with turned down socks. Protesters got to look nice. In the meantime, her daddy brought her a game to help her pass the time in jail. Her mama and daddy took her by Center Street Elementary to tell her teacher she'd be absent, maybe for a whole week. Miss Wills wrapped her arms around her. Audrey knew she was proud of her. She said goodbye to her grandparents. You'll be fine, her grandmother said. She knew Audrey would be brave. So did Audrey. Then her mama and daddy drove her to 16th Street Baptist Church where the children were gathering. Even before she reached the door, Audrey heard loud voices chanting freedom songs. Freedom songs. Inside, hundreds of big kids called out to friends and crowded around signs for their high schools. Parker, Carver. Her head swiveled. Where was the sign for Center Street Elementary? She was the only protester from her school, the youngest child in the whole church, and she knew no one. She knew nobody. Audrey huddled by her parents in the basement. But when Jim lined her up with the others, 2 by 2, and the doors swung open, Audrey straightened up. She was going to break a law to go to jail to help make things right. Clutching a protest sign in one hand and her game in the other, Audrey marched out the door. She stomped and sang, "Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round, turn me round, turn me round." And these are the signs. I'll read the signs. It says, can a man love God and hate his brothers? Justice for all. Segregation is sin. Half a block from the church, a white policeman stopped Audrey. He pointed toward a police van. Sentence, 1 week in juvenile hall. She's doing her thing. A matron locked Audrey into a day room with 24 other girls, all older, all bigger, all stranger. They're all strangers. Audrey sat down alone and slipped the cover off her game. I told you to sit down, the matron yelled. Audrey jumped. She didn't remember standing up. The matron dragged her to a dark, empty room. When I tell you something, you do it, she commanded, or I'll leave you here. Remember, she didn't remember standing up. Trembling, Audrey quietly followed the matron back to the day room, put away her game, laid down her head and cried. Jail was harder than she thought. And she wasn't fine after all. By evening, Audrey was hungry and tired. For dinner, soupy, oily, tasteless grits. At night, a bare mattress with one thin sheet for a cover. She wasn't prepared for that, huh? Audrey and her cellmates were let outdoors into an empty concrete pen surrounded by high prison walls. The older girls talked together. Audrey wondered what her classmates were doing. Miss Wills would be keeping them busy. Mm. On another day, Audrey was sent to a huge room and told to sit in a chair that was so high her feet dangled above the floor. 4 white men glared at her. She never talked to a white man before. Are you against America? One demanded to know. No, sir, she answered politely. What do you talk about at those meetings? Answered another asked. Our freedom. Why did you march? To go places and do things like anybody else. What was wrong with that? Every mealtime, Audrey stared at greasy grits. She could barely spoon them into her mouth, let alone swallow them. Every night, the cot's wire springs jabbed. Every morning, she had nothing to do but sit alone with her game. In the afternoons, though more kids crowded into the day room, some days, many of them arrived sopping wet. A girl explained that firemen aimed powerful hoses at the children. Surging water spun them off their feet and down the street. They got up and kept marching anyway until they too were sent to jail. By Audrey's 5th day in detention, the police couldn't squeeze in one more person. We filled up all the rooms. We filled up all the rooms. Audrey practically jumped up and down. She was so proud. Watching television in the day room, she saw black people stroll straight into stores and restaurants like they belonged there. No one else could be sent to jail. Everything had changed. After 7 days, Audrey went home. Her mama and daddy wrapped their arms tight around her, washed the jail off of her, and for dinner, hot rolls baptized in butter. Baptized in butter. That was her favorite. They look good too, don't they? Two months later, the city of Birmingham wiped segregation laws clean off the books. Audrey licked her spoon clean at Newberry's counter, like everybody else. Look at them looking at her crazy. She sat there with her father. Look at her. Licked it right off her spoon. Wow, they have a picture of Audrey Faye Hendricks. This is Audrey Faye Hendricks. This is Audrey. They have an author's note that I will read to you guys. It says, every day Audrey Faye Hendricks spent in jail, her mother Lola called someone she knew there to make sure her daughter was safe. The day after her release, Audrey returned to Miss Will's class. She didn't tell her classmates about marching or jail, though. It didn't dawn on me that it was a big deal, she said. But it was. Audrey was one of more than 3,000 children who were arrested in Birmingham, Alabama in May of 1963. The Children's March, which was planned by Reverend James Bevel, Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., affected not only Birmingham, but America. That summer, young people held protests in nearly 200 cities. President John F. Kennedy spoke on television about prejudice and sent a civil rights bill to Congress. So on August 28, about 250,000 people marched in Washington, D.C. to hear Dr. King preach about his dreams of freedom. I had the honor of talking with Audrey in her home where she grew up. She showed me the table at which Dr. King blessed their meals and the upright piano where she practiced singing civil rights songs, including Ain't Gonna Let Nobody Turn Me Round. Audrey told me that she remained an activist afterwards. She volunteered to integrate a high school, enrolling as one of its first black students. It took a while for whites and blacks to work together, she said, but it was what we fought for. After graduating from college and working in Dallas, Texas, Audrey returned to Birmingham, where she taught preschool and led Head Start programs. Years later, she earned a graduate degree researching women, like her mother and herself, who were involved in the civil rights movement. Schools around the country invited her to speak about her experience as the youngest known marcher. Nicknamed the Civil Rights Queen, Audrey Faye Hendricks died in 2009. Wow. And then down the bottom it says, what a difference the Children's March has made in this nation. Audrey Faye Hendricks, January 12, 2008 is when she said that. I'll read it again. What a difference the Children's March has made in this nation. Wow. So we have a timeline here. See if you can see the timeline. And you can pause it and read it. Pause and read. Pause and read. But let me see if I can read a little bit to you. In 1944, Birmingham, Alabama adopted racial segregation ordinances that declared it unlawful to conduct a restaurant at which white and colored people are served in the same room, and for a Negro and a white person to play together. In June 4th of 1956, Reverend Fred Shuttleworth began holding weekly church meetings to plan integration of schools and facilities in Birmingham. January of 1963, Reverend Shuttlesworth urged Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to come to Birmingham to help the civil rights movement there. April of 1963, Dr. King discussed strategies with many people, including the Hendrickses. He called for nightly mass meetings, and he asked volunteers to picket and sit in at segregated stores and restaurants so they would be arrested and fill the jails. Few adults volunteered. Like it said in the book, they were afraid of losing their job or getting kicked out on the street from their apartments. April 29 of 1963, Reverend James Bevel proposed that children march and go to jail. May 2 through 7th of 1963, the Children's March resulted in the arrest of 3,000 through 4,000 young people filling the jails. Audrey Faye Hendricks, the youngest known marcher, was arrested on the first day. June 19th of 1963, President John F. Kennedy submitted a civil rights bill to Congress. July 23rd of 1963, Birmingham rescinded its segregation ordinances. August 28th of 1963, civil rights activists held the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. In September of 1963, four black girls were killed by a bomb at the 16th Street Baptist Church. On July 2nd, 1964, Congress passed the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Wow. Once again, I'm going to show you this picture of Audrey Faye Hendricks. Audrey Faye Hendricks. Beautiful young lady. Determined. I wish I had a picture of what she looked like now. There's a recipe for the hot rolls baptized in butter. If you want to see the recipe, it's right here. This is the recipe. You can pause this video. Pause it. Write down all these recipes, all the ingredients, and make it. Yes. So this is the directions on the other page. After you've written down the recipes, here's the directions. I might surprise you guys. Make this thing and eat it while I'm reading to you, right? I think my mouth would water too much. This recipe makes about 25 to 30 rolls. Now I'm going to read you a little bit about our author, Cynthia Levinson. Cynthia Levinson was in high school. She was in high school when Audrey Faye Hendricks marched to jail. And she knows she would not have been as brave as Audrey. But when Cynthia met Audrey 45 years later, she knew she had to write a book about her for young readers. She spent more than 3 years interviewing marchers and researching the events. Her book, We've Got a Job, the 1963 Birmingham Children's March, tells the story for older readers. Then Cynthia has also written about social justice in Watch Out for Flying Kids and various other books. And she and her husband divide their time between Austin, Texas, and Boston, Massachusetts. A portion of the author's proceeds from sales of this book will be donated to the Jefferson County Head Start program, where Audrey Faye Hendricks worked as an adult. Visit Cynthia. Okay. Vanessa Brantley Newton. That's the artist, the illustrator of this book. Self-taught artist and has attended both FIT, Fashion Institute of Technology, and School of Visual Arts in New York, where she studied fashion and children's illustration, respectively. Vanessa is the illustrator of many books, and as well as presenting Tallulah, right, by Tori Spelling. She hopes that when people look at her work, it will make them feel happy in some way or even reclaim a bit of their childhood. Visit Vanessa at oolaladaesignstudio.blogspot.com. Okay. Well, all right. The youngest marcher. Proud to have her name. Thank you for giving me that name, Mom. I love my name, Audrey. The story of Audrey Faye Hendricks. Proud to share her name. Well, you guys, it's over. I hope you guys enjoyed me reading this fun, exciting, and educational book to you on this Educational Tuesday, The Youngest Marcher. Please come and see me again tomorrow. Be here while I read another fun, exciting, and tomorrow will be Multicultural Awareness Day. So thanks again, Mom, for being here. Thank you, Leo Carlos, for being here and supporting me. Again, my mom's here every day. Her name is Beverly. Thank you. All right. Thanks for all your love and support. Whoever else is here, thank you. Remember, if you don't comment, I can't see who's here because of the way this is set up. It doesn't allow me to see you. I used to be able to see you when I used my phone, but on a computer, and I can't see you unless you comment. So I say that to say thank you, everyone who is here viewing this. Thank you to everyone who is clicking like, who is clicking share, and who will go on to YouTube, to Audrey's Reading Area, right after this and smash that subscribe button for me. Thank you, guys. Thank you. And thank you to everyone who has made donations via Cash App. My Cash App is the $ Bronze Tiger Gal, or Cash App, this $ Audrey's Reading Area 1218. I believe. I'm going to have to check that out. But the Bronze Tiger Gal is correct. Cash App, any type of donations if you like. And thank you so much. I promise you I spend it on buying nice, exciting, fun, multicultural books, educational books, inspirational books like this. Once again, tomorrow, catch me live, IVE. That's live, LIVE. Live at 5 tomorrow, you guys. Tomorrow. I'll see ya tomorrow. Tomorrow's only a day away, you guys. Only a day, 1 day away. I will see you again live, LIVE. Live at 5 tomorrow. Thanks again. Shout out to my cousin Elid and my friend Victoria, who always share this video on their page. And once again, I'll see you live at 5 tomorrow.